Hi, and welcome to the Dee-Brief Show. I'm your host, Dee Clayton. I'm an author, I'm an executive coach, I'm a trainer, and I'm passionate about communication. And the Dee-Brief Show for the summer is just going to be little mini parcels. We're going to talk to you about a topic that we know that is really interesting to you or has impacted you or people you know. We're going to be talking about monkeys. We're going to be talking about communication. So enjoy these little mini debriefs, and then in September, we're going to get back to the full length, I say full length, but 20 to 30 minute interviews with fascinating people with all new topics to talk about. And of course, the exciting news that all this is going to be on podcast, available on podcasts. So series 1 is getting dropped as we speak. Every 2 weeks, we're dropping the episodes with our new guests in series 1 over the summer. And then series 2, as we record the new guests, we're going to be putting them on the podcast as well. So that make it more convenient if you want to listen to us on the school run, on the drive to work, or whilst just walking the dog. We'd love to be speaking to you then, and tune in. So please follow the show, search for the Dee-Brief Show with Dee Clayton. Press follow and you'll get to know of any updates and new episodes coming out. Hi, my name's Dee Clayton, host of the Dee-Brief Show, and these are mini debriefs, which is over the summer holidays, just 10 minutes or so of me talking about something that's come up over the past series 1. And series 2, where we do guest interviews, will be coming up in September. So that's not long now. Looking forward to it, and been working hard behind the scenes, but just wanted to give you some stuff to be thinking about over the summer on my dog walks. And here's Abby. She's actually going to be in the shot today. Abby! Yes! She's on all of the calls. She knows a lot about the Simply Amazing structure. The last mini that we did was all about the what if section. The section at the end of the Simply Amazing structure where people ask you about, well, you ask them about have they got any questions and thoughts, and people ask you about anything that they want to. It's a really open session. So one of the things that came off the back of that is the thought that what if they ask you a really difficult question, a question that you don't want. So hopefully now, if you've done your what if section, you've prepared as much as you can for predictable questions because you've thought about each of the people as per the video that I talked to you about. But it is still true that you might get difficult questions that perhaps you don't want to answer or you don't know how to answer. So let's talk about that. Firstly, if there's only likely to be a few questions that you don't know the answer to, it is normally, depending on who you're talking to, but it is very often normally okay to say, okay, I need a few minutes to answer that, or that's a good point, can I go away and think about that and come back to you with the answer, when do you need it by? So normally those things are okay. Now I know some situations where that isn't appropriate, but just think about whether that's a monkey of yours, not wanting to look stupid, not wanting to be looking like you're not good enough, so you're a little bit over worried about saying that in a presentation. But really, if you've done your what if preparation, it does mean that these questions that people are asking you might not be predictable, so it's okay for you not to know everything. If you think that's not okay, either that's true, it's not okay in your culture, your company, or it's not true and it's a monkey. So just keep an eye on that one. Let's say then that in addition to that, you want to be able to answer the question, but you don't know how yet. Here's a secret top tip. Often the questions that people ask aren't the questions that they want answered. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say you've launched a product, you've gone through your Simply Amazing structure, the little intro, the why, the what, the how, and the what if. And in the what if phase, you say, any questions and thoughts? And they say, can we have it sooner? Can you launch the product sooner? Now, you might be the project leader and you're going through the whole of your Gantt chart thinking, oh no, there's no way I can do it sooner because I've done it as quickly as I can, blah, 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 blah. So you might say, no, I've done everything. You might get defensive saying, of course we can't do it sooner because I've done the Gantt chart and I've done the timeline as best I can. And if I could do it sooner, I would have done it sooner, stupid. Obviously you won't say that, but you might be thinking that, right? And that'll come out in your body language. Well, here's the trick, is to, instead of answering that question, ask the person who's asked the question. Let's say it's the sales director. So if the sales director said, can we have it sooner? Instead of answering, can we have it sooner? Go back to the sales director, acknowledge that his question was good, and then dig deeper. So you might say something like, okay, let me think about whether we can have it sooner. But before I answer that, is there a particular reason you're asking that question? And what you'll get is what I call underneath question, which is actually the question that the sales director wants answered and the one that he or she cares about. How do I know that? Because most of the questions we ask are surface level. So we don't ask the wrong question on purpose, it's just that we're not very specific with our question asking. So the sales director, then they might say something like, well, why do I ask? Because I've got a customer X, and it's really important that they have it by October the 2nd because they've got a conference that they need to show the product at, right? Now that's a completely different question to can we launch all of the product earlier? There's hundreds of places I could go with that. Okay. Well, what does your customer need? Do they need the fully working product? Can we give them a mock-up? Can we just show them version 1? You know, what do they need? Or can we launch just for that area? Can we give them the test version? There's all sorts of things that you can go back with when you know the actual question that they want to know. So don't rush into answering the question that you think they're asking, and that they think they're asking, by the way, because they don't know the underneath question until you ask them. This works with almost anything. For example, how much does it cost? Okay, before I tell you that, is there a certain budget that you need to hit? And they might say, well, I don't want to tell you my budget, or yes, there is, or well, we've got a low budget at the moment, so we need it to be trim, or anyway, all of that information helps you to either answer their issue, can they afford it? They're not really asking the price, probably. What they mean is, can they afford it, or can they value it enough to pay for it? What value does it bring? Always do this if you need, well, do it anyway, it's a good thing to do. It might get a bit annoying if you do it all the time, but certainly if it's a complex question and you feel you can't answer it, possibly it's because they haven't actually answered the question, asked the question in a specific enough way. So you'll be helping them to get what they want as well. Another question to ask is to ask them what they think. If you are a little bit stuck on what to say, you can say, do you have a view of this? Or before I answer, what do you think? It's a little bit of a classic. You can use it for a couple of purposes. One is to get out of a pickle. So if you're not sure, you can say, I'm not sure, what do you think? Or you don't have to say the I'm not sure. You could say, do you have any views on this before I answer? Depends how that would go down with your audience. Way that I use this often is in coaching and training, so that when somebody asks a question and actually they need to think about the answer, not just get it easily from me, I might say to them, what do you think? It's like a delegation technique, isn't it? In fact, we talk about delegation with Mark Tyrrell in Dee-Brief Show in Series 2 coming up. And another thing you can do is to make sure you have enough time to answer. So if you get asked the question and you need to get a little bit more thinking time, you can just say, that's a good question, or thank you for that question. So that's a good question is fine if you mean it. Sometimes it can be a bit overused. So you might say, thank you for that question, good point. And then you've bought yourself 3-5 seconds there. You can take a pause. And there's an example where Steve Jobs had a gap, a nice pause of 18 seconds before he answered, which is a little bit too long, but the rest of us could easily get away with 3 seconds you wouldn't notice, 6 seconds is fine, 8 seconds you'd notice, but it doesn't mean that's bad. Sometimes it gives you a bit more credibility. You could also, with your body language, do the kind of thinking body language. Let me think about that for a moment. So especially if you're introverted preference and you do take longer to think, what you want to do is signal to the other person who's asked you the question that it is going on in your head. So you don't want to just have silence without them knowing what you're doing. So if they ask you a question, you don't want to just look like a rabbit in the headlights. It's better to say, oh, let me think about that. Or, yes, that's interesting. Here's one way to explain it, and off you go. So you've bought yourself quite a lot of time there to think, and there's nothing wrong with that. I hope that has helped you to deal with your questions in a new and more strategic way. Certainly the first point is the advanced point, going the question underneath the question, and the last point is the easiest one. Give yourself a little bit of time to answer those questions. That's me signing off for the Summer Debrief Show. Thank you for listening to this mini debrief show just over the summer, and we'll be back soon with some fascinating guests, and they will be available on podcast too when they're done in series 2. For now, series 1 guests are dropping across the summer every 2 weeks or so as a podcast. So if you didn't get a chance to catch them on lives or on YouTube, then it's going to be available on your favourite podcast, Apple, Spotify, or search anywhere you listen to a podcasts for The Dee-Brief Show with Dee Clayton, and follow, and then you will know when new episodes are dropped. So we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you for joining us for this Dee-Brief Mini over the summer.